You traded me to your brother? I stopped in the apartment doorway, still holding a grocery bag, while my roommate looked at me like this was a perfectly normal question. Logan was sitting at the kitchen counter with his laptop open. Across from him was his older brother, Cole, wearing a dark work jacket with sawdust caught along one sleeve. Neither of them laughed. That was the first bad sign. Traded is a strong word, Logan muttered. You literally texted me. I solved the Cole problem. I set the bag down slowly. Apparently, I'm the solution. Logan rubbed the back of his neck. He only did that when he knew he'd messed up. Cole stayed quiet, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I'd met him maybe 6 times before. He was 30, broad-shouldered, painfully calm, and somehow made silence feel like an interrogation. Not that I'd noticed him much. I definitely hadn't noticed the rough hands resting beside his coffee or the way his eyes stayed on me when I entered a room. That would have been inconvenient. I promised I'd help him finish his house, Logan explained. Cleaning, organizing, paperwork. 3 months. But I got that job in Austin. Congratulations. I folded my arms, still not hearing the part where I became transferable property. Logan winced. Cole's jaw tightened. You didn't. His voice was lower than I remembered. He suggested it. I told him it was a terrible idea. Then why are you here? Cole held my gaze for a second too long. Because he said you might agree. A weird knot formed in my stomach. Probably irritation. Definitely irritation. Logan jumped back in before the silence got worse. You'd stay at Cole's place while I'm gone. I cover your rent here. All of it. You help with meals, cleaning, invoices, normal stuff. You work from home anyway, and his place has actual space. His place is a construction zone. A spacious construction zone. I stared at him. He smiled weakly. I hated that the offer made sense. Freelance design hadn't exactly been generous lately, and 3 months without rent would fix more problems than I wanted to admit. Still, agreeing felt like stepping into something without seeing the bottom. What does Cole get? I glanced toward him. Besides a stranger touching all his stuff? You're not a stranger. The words came quickly. Cole seemed to realize it at the same moment I did, because his expression shifted, just slightly. He looked down at his coffee. Logan looked between us. Right. Great. So everybody knows everybody. That's not what I meant, Cole murmured. I should have let it go. Instead, I asked, what did you mean? His eyes lifted back to mine. Gray. Steady. Too focused. I mean, you've been living with my brother for almost 2 years. I know enough about you to know you're responsible. That's disappointingly practical. Something close to a smile touched his mouth. It disappeared before I could be sure. Cole leaned forward, forearms resting on the counter. You can say no, Mason. If this feels wrong, there's no deal. Logan can figure out his own mess. Logan opened his mouth, then wisely closed it. There was no pressure in Cole's voice. No joke, either. Just a quiet seriousness that made my tension loosen when it shouldn't have. I looked at Logan, then at the overdue invoice notification glowing on my phone. 3 months. Free rent. A quiet place to work. And Cole, apparently. Fine, I exhaled. But I'm not wearing a maid uniform. Logan nearly choked laughing. Cole didn't. He just watched me, one eyebrow lifting. Wasn't planning on asking. Heat climbed into my neck for no good reason. Logan started talking about moving dates, but I barely heard him. Cole's attention stayed on me a moment longer before he reached for his coffee. 3 months, he said. Then you can come back here and hate my brother like normal. I laughed despite myself. It meant nothing. He was being polite. That's what I told myself. The problem was, Cole didn't look at me like a guy agreeing to temporary housework. He looked like he'd already imagined me in his house, and had been waiting to see whether I'd say yes. Moving into Cole's house felt less like starting a new arrangement, and more like walking into a decision I hadn't fully thought through. Logan dropped me off Saturday morning with 2 duffel bags, my laptop, and exactly 0 shame. 3 months. He reminded me, backing toward his car. Try not to fall in love with the place. The place. I looked past him at Cole, who was standing on the porch with his arms folded. Logan grinned. Sure. The place. Then he got in the car and left before I could throw anything at him. Cole watched the taillights disappear, then reached for one of my bags. I can carry it. I know. He lifted it anyway. You also pack like you're fleeing the country. I need options. You brought 4 hoodies. Exactly. His mouth twitched, and there it was again. That almost smile he kept acting like I had imagined. The house was older than I expected, 2 stories with half-finished floors and paint samples taped to nearly every wall. It smelled like wood, coffee, and something clean I couldn't place. Cole led me upstairs to a room at the end of the hall. A full bed, a small dresser, a desk by the window. My desk chair had a folded blanket over the back, and there was a power strip already plugged in beneath it. "You set this up?" I dropped my laptop bag onto the bed. Cole looked toward the window. "You work from home, right?" I ran my fingers along the edge of the desk. One leg had been reinforced with a new piece of wood. "Was it broken?" "Loose. And you fixed it before I got here?" He shrugged. "Didn't want you blaming me when it collapsed. It was practical. That was all." Cole fixed things. That was literally his job. Still, a sudden warmth pressed behind my ribs, and I hated how quickly I noticed it. The rest of the afternoon passed with boxes, ground rules, and Cole repeatedly telling me I didn't need permission to use anything. Food, laundry, television, whatever. He leaned against the kitchen counter. "You live here now. Temporarily. Still counts." Our eyes held for a second. Not long enough to mean anything. Long enough for me to look away first. That night, I made pasta because the kitchen was the only room that didn't look like a hardware store exploded inside it. Cole came in around 7, tired and dusty, with a small cut across one knuckle. He stopped when he saw the plates. "You cooked already? That was part of the deal, wasn't it?" His expression changed. Softer, but only for a second. "You don't have to earn your keep here, Mason." My hand tightened around the serving spoon. I know. I wasn't sure why the words landed so hard. Cole sat across from me and finished 2 full plates. When I raised an eyebrow, he glanced down at the empty bowl. It was decent. Decent? Maybe good. "You're terrible at compliments." "You're still smiling." I stopped immediately. Cole didn't. Later, I went upstairs and found the loose desk chair completely steady beneath me. I told myself that explained the strange flutter in my chest. Then I came downstairs the next morning and found a mug waiting beside the coffee maker. 2 sugars. A little cream. Exactly how I drank it. Cole was already pulling on his work boots by the door. "How did you know?" He looked up. "You make it the same way every time at Logan's." For a second, neither of us moved. He had noticed. Not once. Enough times to remember. Cole opened the door, cold morning air slipping into the room. "Lock up if you leave." Then his gaze dropped briefly to the mug in my hands. "And drink it before it gets cold." The door shut behind him. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the coffee like it had personally betrayed me. It was just a small thing. Cole paid attention to people. That didn't make me special. The problem was, I had never seen him make Logan's coffee. By the 3rd week, Cole and I had fallen into a routine that felt dangerous mostly because of how normal it was. I worked at the kitchen table while he left before sunrise, usually with sawdust already on his boots somehow. He came home tired, dropped his keys into the same ceramic bowl, and always checked the stove before checking his phone. I started leaving dinner covered in the oven when he ran late. He started bringing me coffee from a shop near his job site without asking what I wanted. He already knew. Neither of us talked about that. On Wednesday afternoon, I was sorting invoices for him when Cole came in earlier than usual. "You're using the wrong column." His voice came from directly behind me. I nearly hit the ceiling. "You walk like a serial killer. You're dramatic." He leaned over my shoulder and pointed at the screen. His chest brushed the back of my chair. One arm rested beside mine on the table, trapping me in without actually touching me. It shouldn't have felt like anything. It was just a small kitchen. Just paperwork. Just Cole standing close enough that I could smell cold air and cedar on his jacket. "This one goes under materials," he murmured. I moved the cursor, but my hand slipped. Cole covered it with his to steady the mouse. His palm was warm. Rough. He didn't pull away right away. Neither did I. The room went quiet in that strange, heavy way it had before. I could hear the refrigerator humming. A truck passing outside. My own pulse, which was embarrassing. Cole's thumb shifted slightly against my knuckle. Then my phone lit up on the table. Logan's name flashed across the screen. Cole stepped back so fast the chair rolled forward. I answered before my voice could betray me. Logan appeared on video from some hotel room in Austin, grinning like he had been waiting all day to be annoying. "How's domestic life?" "I'm hanging up." "Come on." "Is Mason keeping the place clean? Cooking dinner? Folding your little work shirts?" Cole's expression hardened. "Stop." Logan laughed. "What?" "I'm just checking whether my replacement wife is earning his keep." The joke landed wrong. I felt it immediately. My pulse spiked, but I forced a smile. Apparently, I'm expensive. 3 months of rent. Logan opened his mouth to keep going. Cole reached over and ended the call. Just like that. I stared at the blank screen. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He stood across from me, shoulders tense. He doesn't get to talk about you like that. Logan jokes about everything. That doesn't make it funny. There was something sharp in his voice. Not anger at me. Something more protective, which was worse. I looked down at the invoice list because meeting his eyes suddenly felt impossible. It's fine. No, Cole moved closer, slower this time. You aren't here because you belong to him. Or me. My throat went dry. He waited until I finally looked up. You aren't something he traded. The space between us felt smaller than it was. Then what am I? I meant it as a joke. At least, I tried to. Cole didn't laugh. His gaze stayed on mine, steady and unreadable, and for one awful second I thought he might answer honestly. Instead, his eyes dropped to my hand, still resting on the mouse where his had been. Someone I don't like hearing him disrespect. He turned toward the hallway before I could respond. I sat there long after he left, staring at a spreadsheet I could no longer read. I had spent weeks telling myself Cole was only being considerate, that he treated everyone this way. But Logan was his brother, and Cole had just ended a call over one stupid joke. The worst part wasn't that he defended me. It was the way he looked at me afterward, like the joke had touched something neither of us was ready to name. The first snow came hard enough to shut down half the city, and by 4 that afternoon, Cole was already back home. I heard the front door open, then his boots against the floor, slower than usual. You're early. I looked up from my laptop. Snow clung to his jacket and melted into dark spots along his shoulders. Roads are getting bad. He dropped his keys into the bowl and glanced toward the window. Power might go. Comforting. You wanted honesty. The lights flickered before I could answer. Cole looked at the ceiling. Perfect timing. An hour later, the heat upstairs stopped working. We ended up in the living room near the fireplace, me wrapped in a blanket and Cole kneeling in front of the flames, trying to convince a stubborn log to catch. You do know how to fix everything, right? No, he sat back on his heels. I just look confident until people stop asking questions. I laughed, and he looked over at me. Not quickly, not casually. His eyes stayed there long enough that the smile slipped off my face. The room went quiet. Cole turned back to the fire. This house belonged to my uncle. His voice had changed. Softer. He took me in for a while when things were bad at home. I had never heard him talk about his family beyond Logan. Is that why you're fixing it? He nodded. I told myself I would sell it when I finished. But you don't want to. Cole stared into the flames. I don't know what I want. There was something in the way he said it that made my throat go dry. Not about the house. Or maybe not only the house. You're allowed not to know, I told him. You don't have to be the guy who fixes everything all the time. His gaze moved back to mine. Who am I supposed to be then? The question was too honest. I pulled the blanket tighter around me. Maybe just Cole. A faint smile touched his mouth. That sounds exhausting. You're doing great so far. He looked down, almost embarrassed, which did something strange to me. I stood to add another piece of wood before I could think too much about it. My sock caught the edge of the rug. 1 second I was upright. The next, Cole was on his feet with one hand around my waist and the other gripping my arm. Careful. The word came out low. I should have stepped back. He should have let go. Neither of us moved. His hand stayed at my side, firm through the fabric of my shirt. My palm was pressed against his chest. I could feel his breathing change. Cole's eyes searched my face, then dropped. Just for a second. Straight to my mouth. My heart started pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it through my hand. Cole. I didn't know what I was about to say. Maybe his name was all I had. His grip tightened slightly. He leaned in, barely an inch, and the entire room seemed to narrow around us. Then the lights snapped back on. The vents hummed to life. Cole froze. So did I? He released me slowly, like even that took effort. You should watch the rug. His voice sounded rougher now. Right. I stepped back, heat climbing into my face. The rug. Cole turned toward the fireplace and dragged a hand over the back of his neck. I sat down again, pretending my legs felt normal. Neither of us spoke for the rest of the night. But every few minutes, I caught him looking at me from across the room. And every time, he looked away first. The next morning, Cole acted like nothing had happened. That would have been easier to believe if he hadn't avoided looking at me for the first 20 minutes. He made eggs. I made coffee. We moved around the kitchen like two people trying not to step on an invisible line between us. Roads are still bad. He finally muttered, staring into the skillet. You should stay inside today. Wasn't planning a winter hike. Good. A pause. You'd probably trip over another rug. I looked at him. Cole kept his face straight, but the corner of his mouth moved. So we're joking about that now? His hand stopped over the stove. For half a second, neither of us breathed. Then his phone started ringing on the counter. Logan. Cole glanced at the screen like it had personally offended him. Answer it, I told him. He'll keep calling. Logan appeared on video from his hotel room. Hair messy, tie hanging loose around his neck. There you are. I thought the storm buried you too. We survived, I replied. Barely. Cole made eggs. Wow. Domestic. Cole's shoulders tightened. Logan didn't notice. Or maybe he did and enjoyed it. You guys look weird. We always look like this, Cole said. No. Mason looks nervous. And you look like somebody threatened your truck. Logan leaned closer to the camera. Did something happen? My heart raced. The heat went out. That isn't what I meant. Cole reached for the phone. Logan pulled it closer to his face on screen, eyes narrowing. Wait. Mason, are you wearing Cole's sweatshirt? I looked down. I had grabbed the gray sweatshirt from the back of the couch sometime after midnight, because mine was still damp. I hadn't thought about it until now. It was Cole, right? Logan grinned slowly. And my brother just happened to offer you his clothes. It was a sweatshirt, Cole cut in. Don't make it weird. The grin disappeared from Logan's face. I'm not making anything weird. I'm reminding you that Mason is my roommate. The room went still. Cole's jaw flexed. I know who he is. Good. Because this whole arrangement was already complicated enough. Logan's voice softened, but somehow that made it worse. Mason, I trust you. Cole, I trust you too. I just don't want either of you getting confused because you're stuck in that house together. Heat climbed into my face. I wanted to laugh it off. Tell him there was nothing to be confused about. But Cole had looked at my mouth last night. His hand had stayed on my waist. And now he was standing 6 feet away like the distance was deliberate. Nobody's confused, Cole said. Too quickly. The words hit harder than they should have. Logan nodded, satisfied. Perfect. Then we're all good. The call ended a minute later. Cole set the phone down without looking at me. He shouldn't have said that. Which part? I tried to sound casual. The part where he thought something might happen? Cole finally met my eyes. Something moved across his face. Fear, maybe. Or regret. The part where he made you uncomfortable. You didn't. The answer came out before I could stop it. Cole went completely still. My pulse jumped. Last night, I added quietly. You didn't make me uncomfortable. His gaze held mine. Long enough for hope to rise. Long enough for me to hate myself for it. Then Cole stepped back and picked up his keys. I need to check the job site. The roads are closed. I'll be careful. He left before I could say anything else. I stood in the kitchen wearing his sweatshirt, listening to his truck pull away through the snow. Logan had wanted to make sure nobody got confused. The problem was, I wasn't confused anymore. Cole had almost kissed me, and now he was running from the fact that I would have let him. Cole came back 3 hours later with snow melting off his boots and a paper bag from my favorite coffee shop in one hand. I was still at the kitchen table, pretending to work. The same paragraph had been open on my screen since he left. He set the bag beside my laptop without a word. You drove across town for coffee? He shrugged out of his jacket. The job site was fine. That wasn't my question. Cole looked at me then. Really looked. His eyes were tired, and there was something unsettled in them that made my breath hitch. You like that place? You could have texted. I know. He stayed by the counter, hands braced against the edge like he needed something solid. I opened the bag. My usual order. 2 sugars. A little cream. Still warm. Cole. He exhaled through his nose. I shouldn't have left like that. No. You probably shouldn't have driven through a snowstorm because Logan made one awkward comment. It wasn't because of Logan. The words came out low and fast. I stopped touching the cup. Cole looked down at the floor, jaw tight. Then why did you leave? Silence. The refrigerator hummed between us. Outside, a plow scraped slowly down the street. Cole rubbed a hand over the back of his neck. Because you said I didn't make you uncomfortable. That's usually considered a good thing. Not when I've spent all morning trying not to think about what would have happened if the lights had stayed off. My heartbeat stumbled. He finally lifted his eyes to mine. There was no joke in his face now. No safe exit. I almost kissed you. I know. And you didn't move. Neither did you. Cole gave a short, humorless laugh. That's the problem. I stood slowly, the chair legs scraping against the floor. Why is it a problem? He looked toward the window, then back at me. Because I'm supposed to make this easy for you. Because if I get this wrong, you still have to live here for 2 more months. You think I can't decide what I want? No, his answer was immediate. I think I'm trying very hard not to want something that would make this complicated. The room felt smaller. I took 1 step closer. Cole didn't back away. And is it working? His eyes dropped briefly to my hand, then returned to my face. No, 1 word. Quiet. Honest. It hit harder than anything else he could have said. My throat went dry. So last night felt real to you? Cole's expression softened in a way I had never seen before. Too real. We stood there with barely a foot between us. His fingers shifted against the counter, like he was stopping himself from reaching for me. I was doing the same thing. Then my phone buzzed. Logan again. Neither of us looked at it. Cole's mouth twitched, but he didn't smile. He's got terrible timing. Runs in the family. That finally got a laugh out of him. Small, rough, nervous. The tension didn't disappear. It changed. Became something we were both aware of now. Something neither of us could pretend was one-sided. Cole reached past me for his coffee, his knuckles brushing mine. This time, he didn't pull away immediately. I don't want to go back to normal, he murmured. My pulse jumped. Good. I let my fingers rest against his for 1 second longer. Because I don't think we can. For the next few days, Cole and I became careful in a way that felt worse than pretending nothing had happened. We still ate dinner together. Still worked at the kitchen table. Still reached for the same coffee pot every morning. But now every small thing had weight. His hand brushing mine. My knee touching his under the table. The way he looked at me, and then looked away like he had remembered a rule neither of us had agreed to. On Friday afternoon, I was finishing a client call when I heard a woman laughing in the driveway. I glanced through the window before I could stop myself. Cole stood beside his truck with a woman in a tan coat, both of them leaning over a set of blueprints. She touched his arm when she laughed. He smiled back. Easy, comfortable, normal. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I hated it immediately. Cole had never promised me anything. 1 almost kiss and 1 honest conversation didn't make him mine. Still, I spent the next hour pretending I wasn't listening for the front door. When he finally came inside, he set his keys down and looked at me. You're quiet. Working. You closed your laptop 10 minutes ago. I glanced at the blank screen. Maybe I'm thinking. Cole leaned against the counter. About what? Nothing. His eyes narrowed slightly. Mason. The woman's laugh replayed in my head. I stood and carried my mug to the sink. You don't have to explain who comes by. I know. A pause. But you want me to. I turned too quickly. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. His expression softened, but that only made me feel more exposed. She's a client. Married. 2 kids. Relief hit so fast it was embarrassing. Cole noticed. Of course he did. You were jealous. I wasn't. You were. You sound very pleased with yourself. I'm not. But there was a quiet smile in his voice. It disappeared when my phone lit up on the counter. Noah. The message preview was impossible to miss. Drinks tonight? I could use company. Cole's gaze dropped to the screen. His face changed. Who is Noah? A friend. The kind who texts you like that? What kind is that? Cole looked away. Forget it. That should have been the end of it. Instead, irritation rose in my throat. No, you don't get to notice everything I do, then act like I'm making it all up. His shoulders stiffened. I'm trying not to make this harder. For who? For you. You keep deciding what is best for me. Cole went quiet. I grabbed my jacket from the chair. Maybe Logan was right. Maybe we got confused because we were stuck in the same house. The words came out sharper than I meant. Cole flinched so slightly I almost missed it. Is that what you think? I wanted him to argue, to tell me no. Instead, he looked down at the keys in his hand. I think you should go out with Noah if you want to. A heavy weight settled over me. Right. I opened the door. Good to know. I made it halfway down the porch steps before his hand closed around my wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop me. I turned. Cole stood behind me, breathing unevenly, his eyes fixed on mine. I don't want you to go. The anger disappeared so fast it left me dizzy. Then why did you tell me to? His thumb shifted against my pulse. Because wanting you to stay is exactly what I'm afraid of. His hand was still around my wrist, warm against the cold air. For a second, neither of us moved. Cars passed at the end of the street. Snow slid from the porch roof somewhere behind him. I could hear all of it because Cole had just admitted the one thing I had been trying not to hope for. You're afraid of wanting me to stay? My voice came out quieter than I meant. Cole looked down at his hand like he had forgotten it was there. He let go slowly, but he didn't step back. This was supposed to be simple. It stopped being simple a while ago. I know. His eyes lifted to mine. That's the problem. I laughed once, without any humor. You keep calling it a problem. Because you live here because of Logan. Because you depend on this arrangement. Because I'm his older brother, and if I get this wrong, you're the one stuck dealing with it. You think pretending nothing is happening makes it better? Cole's jaw tightened. He had no answer. I stepped closer. Not enough to touch him. Enough that he had to look at me. I'm not stuck here. Mason, no. You keep deciding that I need protecting from you. You never ask what I want. The porch went quiet again. Cole's fingers curled at his side. Then tell me. There it was. No joke. No easy way out. My heart started pounding. I want you to stop walking away every time this feels real. His breath hitched. Barely, but I noticed. And I want you to stop acting like the coffee, the late dinners, the way you look at me. Like all of it means nothing. Cole glanced toward the driveway. Then his gray eyes locked back onto mine. It doesn't mean nothing. Then tell me what it means. He looked almost angry, not at me, but at himself. At the entire situation. It means I notice when you're not in the room. The words came low. Rough. It means I come home earlier because I know you'll be here. It means I bought that coffee because I hated the way you looked after I left. My breath caught. Cole took one small step forward. It means when Noah texted you, I wanted to ask you not to go. You did. Too late. Still counts. His mouth moved like he was trying not to smile. It disappeared quickly. I don't know what this makes me. It doesn't have to make you anything tonight. That seemed to hit him harder than I expected. His shoulders loosened slightly. You aren't asking for an answer? I'm asking for honesty. Cole nodded once. Then his hand lifted, slow enough that I could stop him, and rested against the side of my face. His thumb brushed my cheek. Gentle. Careful. Honestly. His eyes stayed on mine. I've wanted to do this since before you moved in. I leaned into his hand before I could second-guess it. That would have been useful information. A quiet laugh escaped him. Nervous. Real. Then the crunch of tires sounded in the driveway, followed by the heavy thud of a car door closing. Logan stood at the bottom of the steps with a duffel bag over one shoulder, staring at Cole's hand on my face. Nobody moved. Logan looked from him to me, then back again. Okay, he said slowly. So I definitely came home at the wrong time. Cole dropped his hand, but this time he didn't step away from me. And for the first time, neither of us tried to pretend Logan had misunderstood. Logan stood in the driveway for a long second, snow melting beneath his boots. Cole's hand had dropped from my face, but he stayed beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. You came back early, Cole said. Logan looked between us. Clearly, I expected a joke. He always had one. Instead, he set down his bag and rubbed both hands over his face. How long? Nothing happened. Cole answered too quickly. I glanced at him. That isn't exactly true. Logan's eyes widened. I didn't need details. There are no details, I said. We almost kissed once. Then we spent a week making each other miserable. That sounds like Cole. Cole gave me a look. Logan almost smiled, but the concern stayed in his face. Mason, are you okay? The question caught me off guard. Yeah. And this is something you actually want. Cole went still beside me. I knew what Logan was really asking. Was I pressured? Was I confused? Was this happening because I needed the free rent and a place to stay? I looked at Cole. He didn't reach for me. He didn't answer for me. He just waited. Yes, I said. But I would like everybody to stop deciding what I want before I get to. Logan nodded slowly. Fair. Then he turned to Cole. And you? Cole looked uncomfortable in a way I had never seen before. I care about him. Simple. No speech. No excuse. Just the truth. Something warm moved through my chest. Logan let out a long breath. Okay. Okay. Cole repeated. I'm not giving you permission. You're both adults. Just don't make it weird. Logan picked up his bag again. I'm just asking you not to make my living situation unbearable if this goes badly. Supportive, I muttered. I'm doing my best. He headed up the steps, then stopped halfway. Also, Mason, you're still paying half the utilities when I get back. The tension broke. I laughed. Cole did too, quiet and relieved. Later, after Logan went to bed, Cole and I sat at the kitchen table With 2 mugs of coffee, neither of us needed that late. The house felt the same. Same unfinished walls. Same invoices stacked beside my laptop. Same ceramic bowl by the door. But nothing felt temporary anymore. Cole turned his mug slowly between his hands. The arrangement ends next month. I know. You can stay until then. After that, he stopped. I waited. After that, I'd like to take you to dinner. You've been eating dinner with me for weeks. A real dinner. His eyes lifted to mine. One where you don't cook. And I don't pretend it's part of a deal. I smiled before I could stop myself. That sounds expensive. I can afford it. Then yes. His shoulders loosened. Under the table, his hand rested near mine. Not touching. Waiting. I moved my fingers across the space between us and hooked them around his. Cole looked down. Then back at me. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. The next morning, our routine started the same way it always had. Cole made coffee. I opened my laptop. Logan complained about the noise from upstairs. But when Cole set my mug beside me, his fingers brushed mine and stayed there. Just for a second. Long enough to make the meaning clear. I had come into that house as part of somebody else's bargain. I stayed because I chose to. And when Cole sat beside me instead of across the table, close enough for our shoulders to touch, I realized he had chosen me too.